So that was 12. We will now go to 13. Action is necessary or appropriate on matters discussed in executive session. Do I have a
Madam
motion?
Chairman, I'd like to make the motion that we approve the items on the selected employment items, Exhibit A, for action.
Okay. I have a second. Mr. Hogan seconds. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? So approved with 6-0. Then any other items? Is there any motion on item C? It's RD, RE, sorry, I don't see any others. So we will go to number 14. Did I leave it? There were no motions about the executive session. Okay, 14, adoption of resolution to refund the 2012B callable bonds with the tax-exempt bond issuance, Exhibit C. Is there action?
Ms. Hammond, I move that we defer that item until our next meeting. I'll explain it if I get a second.
Okay, Mr. Love is
I'll
second.
second, so you
Mr.
can-
Love is
so
second.
you
I
can
can
just-
explain it. Okay. First of all, we've got plenty of time on this. I believe when we got the presentations from the consultants previously, in fact, the resolution says that we can't act until March of 2022 because that's when the first bonds are callable. So we have plenty of time. So that's the first reason I think we should wait. Not that I believe in waiting until the last minute, but I believe that we ought to make the decision on our investment advisor first because this would be their first major proposal to us is exactly how to do this. So for that reason, I think we should wait. And then a third reason is I have some concerns with the way that it was worded. It wasn't really clear, and if we passed it the way it was worded right now, we could potentially end up borrowing $7 million more than we really need to refund the bonds. So, and I can go into more detail because I have other concerns as well, but those are my three biggest reasons that I think that we should wait.
Any other, Mr.
Yeah,
Love?
I just wanted to, I'm confused about the, the financial advisor and the bond lawyer. Are we going to take that up at a separate?
That would have been if you wanted to make a motion from discussion.
I mean, I didn't understand what we were, if we were to, since basically we haven't really heard from both parties, in my opinion, but that's just what I have to
Ms. Hines.
say.
It was my understanding that if that motion wanted to be made, it needed to be made under item 3, and it wasn't.
That's what I
So
asked.
we will keep the status quo if we move forward with.
Status quo meaning what?
We will keep our current financial advisor and bond attorney. That was what was explained to me, that there would either be a motion to change it or we would keep who we currently have at the recommendation of the district.
Well, it actually doesn't say that, okay? If you go back to executive session, it says discussion of contractual matter related to bond issuance, and there's no action on there, and we didn't take action. So I think you're correct in that since we're not taking action at this time, we're not making a change. It wouldn't preclude us from taking action at our next board meeting. Which I think would be appropriate because we never really got a good discussion and a chance to ask a lot of questions to the folks under consideration.
Well, I got a question for Ms. Hines there, if I may. You said that it was your understanding. Where did that come from? I didn't hear that.
That was my understanding that we would be taking, we've had 2 different financial advisors come and give us a presentation. Mm-hmm. At the last meeting, it was my understanding from the last meeting that when we came into this meeting, at the recommendation of the district administration, we would either make a decision to change our financial advisors or we would stay with the current financial advisors, and that the recommendation of the district office, Dr. Ross and Ms. Rawls, that we would be voting to adopt a resolution on the bonds and that it was important to them. So when I came into this meeting, I thought that that was why we had our financial workshop, why we had the presentations from the financial advisors at the last meeting, why we received emails saying if we had any additional questions for them to send them to the district office, and that all of those questions and answers would be provided to the board before this meeting, and that it was really important to the district staff that we had this vote today. That's why it was my understanding.
Ms. Hunt.
And I had I had a question about how that would go if, we have 6 board members.
Dr. Ross would like to address that because we had, and you may want to have Ms. Ross speak to that, but you go ahead.
Ms. Rawls can speak to clarify things, but it was my direction that we focus tonight on the financial, and that this would be a financial focus. We know that we are in need of financial advisors, and we had 2 companies present to us at a previous board meeting. We know that in selection of the financial advisors that we also would have to select a bond attorney. Our current bond attorney has prepared a resolution for us, and we decided that if in the previous action item, if we were going to change or make any change, that we would move on to, we would strike 14. However, we had the presentation by 2 financial advisors. Those presentations were submitted to the board via email. We asked to solicit any questions, and that we would take those questions to the budget workshop. At the budget workshop, we would be able to respond to those questions, which were placed in Ms. Marty Rawls' presentation. Now, we didn't cover all of them, but they are in the slides in the board packet for you. Additional questions were asked, and we went into executive session to discuss to make discussions of contractual matters related to the bond issuance. So that was an opportunity to discuss it. It was our hope that under item 13 that we could come out and make a decision in terms of a motion of the financial advisor, corresponding bond attorney that we would select, and then that would give us direction on terms of when to how to go forward with item 14, the resolution of the callable bond. I do want to ask Ms. Rawls to speak to the point about the issuance in March and what that time frame looks like, so that the board is informed of what that would look like for us.
With the callable bonds, the call date is March the 1st, but based on that March 1st deadline, we would need to have the bonds sold. We'd have to go through a preparation for selling the bonds, have them sold, and be ready to pay them on March 1st. So we have, based on the law, we have 90 days prior to that call date that we can issue as soon as 90 days or in that interim between December 1 and March 1. But and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Heiser, March 1 is payday.
That is the day that the bonds would be paid, that's correct.
So we would have to have the bond sale completed much before March 1.
Would it be appropriate if we let, if Ms. Heinzman wants to tell us about the date, whether there's time for the delay of it?
I would like to point out that one of the consultants, the time frame that they gave us at the last finance workshop, we were well within. We don't have to make a decision this month.
The first time we had this discussion, it was November when
Correct.
we were told that we would be well within our time frame.
Well, since Ms. Heisman set this up, will you confirm about our dates, whether we've got time to defer it?
You have time.
Okay.
You have time to defer. The process will be that once y'all have decided who your professionals are going to be, and adopted a resolution, a preliminary official statement, the disclosure document needs to be prepared, the ratings process will be gone through, and then we would sell the bonds and have the bonds close within that 90-day window. as a practical matter, you generally don't want to sell debt the end of December. So you'd be looking at getting all the paperwork finished and having everything done so that you could sell the bonds with a forward closing in November or December.
But if this was delayed till the 27th, our next meeting, would that hurt us in time-wise?
I think it'll break the heart of your staff, but we can, I've got to, we can
roll.
accommodate that.
Okay.
And I'll be happy to come back in a couple of weeks if that's what y'all, if that's what y'all prefer.
Well, my understanding was what Dr. Ross explained to me, too, and that Ms. Hines said, because, I thought if there was, I know that Dr. Ross was worried if we changed one thing, then it could change that you were presenting that, So that's why, and I'm going by Miss Andrea White, this is giving us this, when you put, action is necessary on appropriate matters discussed in executive session, it didn't have to have action aside. We've done this many times.
I guess the concern I have is we never got a chance to really ask questions. And even on a contract, the individuals that we would be contracting with did not meet with us to ask contract questions. And I did not get all the answers to the questions that I asked well before. I asked these questions like a week ago, and they were not all in the board packet, and I didn't get answers and there were contract questions like, is there an alternative on the way we pay the fees versus a % versus a fixed rate? So, we've already skipped that. We didn't take a vote. So I think at this point, we've got to consider whether or not to put it on another agenda. But whether or not we stick with the financial advisors that we have, I have big concerns about the way that this refunding is worded, that it could cost us a lot of extra money. We could be borrowing more money. The way it's worded is it says the administration sets the rate and the term. Okay, so that could affect our millage as well. If we refund them at exactly the same term that we currently have, then our interest payments go down, the district gets more operating funds essentially. If we shorten the term, it actually would increase our millage. And so I don't think that's a decision that should be taken out of the board's hands. And the way that this resolution is worded right now, the term can be set by the district. So there's a lot of issues that I have with making a vote on this at this time. This is why I think we should defer it to get those issues addressed.
Ms. Heisman, is the wording not, can that happen to us based on the wording like Ms. Huddle is saying?
This resolution follows the same format that y'all have followed for years, which is you delegate to your superintendent or his designee making certain specific decisions, such as the term of the debt. I don't think in a refunding you would generally shorten the term, nor would you lengthen it, but it is correct that the details of the transaction are not included in your resolution. And generally speaking, that works because you've got confidence that the administration has a sense of the board, and ideally, y'all would have a financing plan in place so that this refunding just is part of that plan, and you know how and where it fits in. And I certainly understand that there are unanswered questions about your millage and how much millage and et cetera. If I could make this suggestion, that if the majority of the board wants the details of the refunding transaction presented at the meeting where you adopt the resolution, which is totally fine, that there's no problem doing it that way, you'll probably need to pick your FA and confirm your bond counsel first, so that all this detail work can be worked out, and then it's either reflected in the actual resolution or reflected in an attachment or something like that. So that's certainly a way forward that might solve the concerns about unanswered questions. Now, I will say that you cannot tie down every detail before a bond sale, because you don't know what the interest rates are going to be, you don't know exactly this or that, so you would always want to have some flexibility. But this document is like the maximum flexibility, and if y'all want more information and more details about the transaction, then that will take time, but it certainly can be done. And I just think you need to know who's going to be providing that service. Or you just got us sending documents up here that don't work for you.
I agree. It's the efficiency of it that I'm hearing. Dr. Ross, what is your, with this motion on the table?
My
is your
recommendation is just what Franny said. I think we're asking for a lot of work to be done. We need to make a commitment to an organization. So if we're going to ask them to do the work, we need to determine who's going to be our financial advisor and who's going to be the corresponding bond. And then, so I need from the board, what do we need to hear in order to make the decision on who the financial advisor is going to be? And then we move forward, and that way that's going to be the expert we trust. And that's the direction that we'll move forward.
So is your recommendation to, because we already talked about a possible special call meeting, because I don't want to put the district staff against some, and I realize we have longer, but if there are questions, and I'm like you, I thought that, I didn't know you had some not answered, because I thought we had this ready to have taken action on the financial advisor along with the bond attorney, and then move on, and then we wouldn't have moved to 14 if it had changed.
Well, and I feel bad about this, but I thought I would get the questions tonight, and I also thought we would meet with them, and we didn't.
Right. Well, I would like to listen to other members. I mean, that was Kathy's, and she's explained it, Ms. Huddle, and she's explained it well. So it looks like we can either, because this was under the action agenda, we had a motion for it, but we've got a motion to delay it. Delay, is that the right word? Okay.
Defer
Gardner.
to the next
Or
meeting.
defer, that's the better word. I want to hear from other board members. Ms. Gardner?
Well, go ahead.
You can go.
I was going to actually recommend or ask if we could, since I guess I was confused about what was on the agenda and where, are we allowed to go back to 5C and do an action item for that tonight?
See, Mrs. White is not here, but we can ask a partner. Yeah.
We have a motion on the table. Ms.
We'll have to
Heiser-
finish it,
Ms.
yeah.
Heiser is your bond counsel right now.
Yeah, we can.
You skip the item. There is no requirement that there is any vote that comes out of executive session. So as it stands, that item, I believe she is your bond counsel. So the motion on the table will need to be voted on whether to accept the adopt the resolution as written or to table it as the motion says.
But
So
can we
if the
go
motion
back?
is
We can't.
We can't go back to that? We can't go back to 5C because it kind of came and went too fast?
well, you have to vote on this
We
first.
have
This
to
first,
do
okay.
this first.
So, again, the motion on the table is to, I guess, table the action item number 14.
Number 14.
If you do not, you still have Ms. Heiser as your current bond counsel.
Just to
I
be
think the
clear,
motion
to
is to
defer, not
is to
table.
delay
You want to
until
read
a
it
time
again,
certain.
You want to read it again, Ms. Huddle?
I move that we defer of a vote on the adoption of a resolution to refund the 2012B callable bonds with a tax-exempt bond issuance, Exhibit C, until a future meeting.
I would love to have a time frame on that.
Okay, until by October 1st. How's that? Can we say that?
The next meeting is
27th.
27th.
All right, by the 27th.
September
To the
20.
27th. How's that?
There you go.
Well, I feel two ways about this. I was, I was ready to move on this because of the staff needing this done, but I also have empathy for any board member that didn't get some answers. I didn't know that you didn't get the answers. it would have been good, I guess, if I had realized some of you wanted, or that you assumed, we would be asking questions to the people, and I kind of thought we were too, but as I asked Ms. Rawls, she said she was presenting, but they were here if there were any questions, correct? I think that's what she said. So I'm a little torn about which way to go on this, because I just don't want to continue to put it off for the staff.
I have something to say about it. I mean, this thing reads, and I didn't understand what you were doing here, but it says discussion of contractual matter relating to, I didn't see anything related to a contract.
I think we're talking two different things, though. Aren't we still on my motion to defer?
Yes, but we didn't, I'm saying that we didn't get to ask the questions related to a contract, just like Ms. Huddle said.
We did. We discussed it in executive session.
But we didn't have a contract back there to discuss, so.
I'm sorry, but we even had Ms. Heinzen come back and answer questions. Ms. Hines.
I would just like to say I'm frustrated, and maybe this is like a learning experience for us communicating as a board, but I know that I have had a conversation with Dr. Ross as a board member, and I believe that he has reached out to all of us, and he has been very clear about prioritizing the desires of our board and the needs of our school district and bringing them all together so that we can be functioning for our district. And he said multiple times over the last month, okay, when we go into September, you know, I really need to get that financial piece down. We need to make sure that we either, you know, at his recommendation, you know, he would like to keep the status quo with our financial advisors and our bond attorney because they know our district, and we need to move forward with that portion. We need to vote on adopting this resolution for these bonds, and that our next meeting we really need to get down and discuss all of the construction priorities so that we know where we're going forward. And what is frustrating is I feel like in the last month, they've been very good about, you know, bringing two different financial advisors to give presentations and to ask us specifically. This is the first time that since I've been on the board that we got an email saying, hey, we have these meetings coming up. Here's their presentations that you asked for after they presented it. Let us know if you have any questions. What else do we need to do? What other questions do you need? Because we really need to get this through, and this is what we need to accomplish at this meeting. And now it's like, oh, wait, I have all of these questions. Oh, I'm looking at this resolution and I don't like the language, which I am not negating that. I absolutely understand where you're coming from. I just feel like we come into these meetings and we're not getting anything accomplished. And we have said we trust our superintendent, we trust our CFO, we trust our team because we have the best team. And then we come in here and then we don't support what their recommendation is, and it's frustrating because we're not getting what we need to get done. So if we're gonna, I would like to call the most question, and let's please vote on that.
Ms. Hammond, can I address that though? Okay, I asked these questions a week ago, and I thought I was coming in here to get the answers. When I got the agenda, I thought we did not discuss contractual matters. I had questions I wanted to ask these people, and they didn't come into session, and then it's 5 till 7, and we're like, we have to leave. I trust Dr. Ross, okay? I trust our staff, but our duty is to our taxpayers, and this is going to affect our millage rates, and I don't think we should be rushing something through just because we trust everybody. They trust us. They voted for us to make the right decisions. And when I ask questions and I don't get the answers, and I think I'm going to meet with people who I'm going to get to ask questions to and they're not there, I'm not prepared to take that risk and vote for taxes. That's just, I think, wrong.
Thank you, Ms. Huddle. Before, I know you called for the question, but I wanted, before you said that, to Dr. Ross, you lead us here, and I'm going to listen to you. if you feel like that you're not putting your staff and your plan in jeopardy, to defer that till the next meeting so that the same, and I'm sorry that they've sat here all this time without being able to talk to us. I apologize to the people, but would you rather it be
Here's my
tonight?
recommendation. Time is ticking. We talked about in the financial workshop the needs to fix chairs and to fix buildings. That has to happen. In order for that to happen, we need to determine our financial position. We can't answer the question about what the millage should be until we have financial backing for that. So I do not want to wait till the 27th. If we have to, and I'm not even going to look at Ms. Rawls as I say this, but if we have to hijack Wednesday's meeting to get these answers, we need that information. I know Wednesday was a public called policy meeting, but if we need to determine who our financial advisor is going to be, and so I want to leave no doubt on any questions, but I would rather make sure that we had those questions answered so that we can move forward, because our team needs to plan on what do we need to do to make sure that we have educational equity in our facilities across the district.
But your answer is you'd rather it not be deferred.
I'd rather we vote
That's it,
on it
'cause
tonight, but if we need additional time, then no later than Wednesday, that we
Well,
have that meeting.
We're going to vote on her, and do you want to add the October 1st to your, or
September 27th.
No, I'm sorry. I was
To
thinking you said
defer
October
until on or before September 27th.
at the next meeting,
Well, we
That
could
is
have
the next
another
meeting.
meeting, but
unless we had a special call meeting. Okay, did y'all, you need to read it again? All right, all those in favor of it being no later decided than the 27th of December. Is that correct? Okay, all those, September 20, did I say, it's just late, September 26th, which is the next meeting. All right, and all those that we can feel like you can handle that and it won't hurt our staff, all those in favor? And it's 4, those opposed 2. That was hard. Okay, yes. Okay, she wants to know if you can go back to, because you could have, I don't know, I've never had this happen, so I'm glad Ms. Stowers is here, she might know too. If you have already passed an item that was on, where it was the one about, it was number 13, action is necessary on appropriate matters discussed in executive session, can you go back?
There's nothing precludes you from doing that. I don't know if that requires a motion or not. I think
Probably
Sherry
should
can do
be.
that.
What do you think, Mr. Stowers? To make, because it's there, you just took it out of play. But do we need to make a motion to go back to that item?
That's correct, and of course, you can take no action, which is when it came across, when it came up on the agenda, and the board decided to take no action, no motions were made, you know, that I think you properly skipped it, but.
All right, Miss, that's your answer.
Okay, well then I'd like to make a motion so that we can ask questions, because we talked about doing this before.
Okay.
I'd like to make the motion that we use First Tryon Advisors as our financial advisors and Franny Heiser's law firm as our financial law advisor for the foreseeable future.
Is there a second? There's a second discussion.
The reason I made that motion is because I would like to ask questions of First Tryon Advisors if we could at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is there someone here that represents First Tryon?
Hi, good evening. I'm Walter Goldsmith with First Tryon Advisors.
Oh, thank you. I think my first question, we had several questions in the back about your ability to work with Ms. Heiser, and also whether or not you would do the SCAGO program, if you'd be able to help us with that if we decided to still use that program.
Yes to both, and that's probably a Mike Gallagher and Franny, but SCAGO is open to any school district regardless of bond attorney or financial advisor. I know Mike is the program administrator for SCAGO. Correct. So yes to both of those.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there an additional amount of, excuse me?
If I could make something clear, that the SCAGO has been used one time, the TAN program, outside of Compass. Compass is the financial advisor for SCAGO, and they're the program administrator. So if y'all wanted to use SCAGO, that you in effect would be having the SCAGO financial advisors and pay for them, and then there would be an expense for the other firm. Now I'm not SCAGO, and Mike was just looking at me that I can't guarantee that would work out, but that would be a possibility. But I cannot guarantee that would work out.
Mr. Lovelace.
Mr. Goldsmith, thank you for coming down here too.
Yes, sir.
I know you've endured several layers of this, but if we use First Tryon and we use Ms. Heiser along with SCAGO, is there an additional layer, like an additional middleman's layer that the district would pay more funds to do that than it would be if we didn't do that, if we went with the existing setup?
If you go through SCAGO, we will not charge you a fee, so you would not have any markup or additional fee from us, and I assume Mike and Franny would also commit that their fee would be the same whether Compass were FA or not to the district, but we will not charge you any fee on that transaction.
Okay.
In that case, effectively, you would have Compass as your financial advisor for the SCAGO program.
No. They would have First Tryon as the financial advisor. We just would not charge a fee
to
the district.
I think that we may need some more clarification on this. I don't want to misspeak because I don't really truly speak for SCAGO, and so if this might be something that y'all really do want us to work on and answer, because in doing the SCAGO transaction, it's and I don't know. I don't know how that Compass would certainly be the financial advisor for SCAGO, and in the other instance I mentioned, Compass was a financial advisor for that transaction. So in this dichotomy or this duality with two financial advisors, there are special rules about that I don't deal with, and so I really think that identifying that as a question and having a written answer for y'all so that you know what what it would be. I think that's the thing to do. I do not feel comfortable with y'all making decisions tonight without a full opportunity to work through, because there's only one time I know that there's been a school district using a SCAGO program without Compass.
My question to you is, and we were talking about competition, and we've talked all around it, but I mean, listen, I'm a pretty simple guy, and I would like to see some. I know that when I invest, and I invest in front-end loaded funds and things like that it costs me to get out of them. Okay, and I know that there's hidden fees in all sorts of things. I want to see a rate, and if it's a moving scale, depending on how much we're borrowing, if we're borrowing $10 million or $100 million, I understand that those things would vary. But I want to see, just for my own purposes, what it's costing us per million, and if there's an economy of scale and it goes down, after you reach a certain point, then I want to see that. And that's what I thought that we were going to see tonight when we came in here.
And to address that question, if I may, I share your desire for total transparency on fees, and I think the question that was mentioned earlier about fees that had been asked earlier in the week did come to us. Marty had called and asked if we were willing to work on an hourly basis, and we said yes. And we delivered our fee proposal today, a fixed fee proposal, which I'm assuming you've received, that was to work on the bond issue, the refunding bond issue. So that's the bond issue that is first up, and we gave that proposal. And then I think what you're asking in terms of SCAGO bond issues would be a subsequent new money bond issue that you might do through SCAGO. And my point to you is, my commitment to you is, if down the road you choose to go through SCAGO to issue the debt, we will not charge a layered on fee. We just won't earn a fee because, as Franny correctly says, Mike Gallagher's firm is the financial advisor to SCAGO. So in that instance, SCAGO is issuing the bonds. His firm does the lion's share of the work involved, and the amount of work that you would be asking us to do is very small at that point. And so that's why I'm comfortable saying we would not charge a fee for that. So there's not a hidden fee or a back-end fee or a front-end fee. We just wouldn't charge you a fee on that transaction. You're asking us to do several hours of work at that point, not 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 hours of work. And so I'm trying to make it as radically transparent as I can possibly make it. And the fee proposal that we gave today was a fixed fee, said you could terminate us at any time for any reason without any penalty. And if at the end of the transaction you were not satisfied with the fee, you could lower our fee to any level you wanted, including zero, unilaterally. So if we get to the end of this process and you think, you know, boy, those guys were all talk and all show, and it really didn't change the transparency and it didn't make us feel better as a board, then you can set our fee to any level, including zero.
That's fine, but I just think that, you know, with all these questions, that I don't see how we could proceed with that. But I haven't seen any fee proposals, so I don't know. So.
It was late in the day when I sent it in, so it may. I know Marty had lots to do to prepare.
I see, Ms. Rawls, you want to answer to that? Then I thought I'd give Mr. Gallagher a chance to see if he does this. He opts the same thing.
I did receive an email. I had some payroll issues I was working on today and finishing up this presentation, and it did not get sent.
You don't have to, we just got that late in the afternoon, so it wasn't our expectation to have that to the board this afternoon, so no need to explain that.
Well, I didn't mean that from an accusatory point of view. I just haven't seen it, and I don't know how I could make a decision based on not seeing the stuff, so that's what I was trying to say.
And just to be fair, Mr. Gallagher, you want to say anything you're willing to do to be competitive? I think that's the name of this game tonight, to be fair.
I'm happy to do whatever the board wants to do. Okay. If, you know, we have a fee schedule that we've gone by. It is goes off of the size of the issue, starts out at anything less than $1 million and goes up from there. You know, I've enjoyed working for the district. Clearly there's some questions or issues. But happy to do what this body wants. I'd just like clear direction of what you want done in order for us to provide the best solution for you.
Thank you. I think this board is very committed to being transparent and having these type of discussions and saving the taxpayer, but still being sure we have enough to do what all our schools need. There's a motion on the table. If you want to read it again, we're going to take a vote. And you want to read it again? You want to read it again?
Well, I can't read it, but I can say it again.
Okay.
I move that we use First Tryon as our financial advisor and Franny Heiser's, it's Burr Law Firm, thank you, as our lawyer for financial advising for the school district for the foreseeable future.
Are those in favor? Raise your hand.
Wait, hold on.
Can I offer an amendment to that?
Yes, Kathy. It'd be so easy to get it up.
Okay. I move to amend the motion to have it only apply to legal counsel. So that we would, the motion would only be to appoint Ms. Heiser as legal counsel for bonds.
Well, that's really changing it.
Well,
I think that's another
Ms. Gardner combined two things.
Okay.
So I'm making a motion to divide them and to, at this time, only move forward with the appointment of Ms. Heiser.
Okay. We'll have to have a second to your unless Ms. Gardner wants to pull hers. Oh, if she doesn't, okay. Seeing no second, then that one dies. All right, all those in favor of Ms. Gardner's motion, raise your hand. 2, all those opposed. And that is 4.
Can I make another motion? I guess this is a question, but I can still make another motion relative to that agenda item, right? Okay. I move that at our next board meeting, we get a formal presentation from each of the proposed consultants, including proposed contract terms, rates, plans for what they would do to manage our debt.
For the financial plan.
Correct.
Because Ms. Hyden's been hired. Okay.
Second.
All right. We got a motion on the table and a second. Any questions? Ms. Gardner.
Would this motion allow us to have a special called meeting instead of waiting till the next board meeting? You think so?
Because it says
think I
next
could
meeting.
Next meeting, okay.
It amended to say a special called meeting.
You can
I
do
don't
that
know
if
if
you
it
want.
will be. I just said we'll leave it open till we can decide, so.
Well, I do know that Dr. Ross had asked us very specifically, and I promised Mr. Lovelace, because it's very important to him and he's worked so hard. The next one theme was going to be facilities, but we really can't get to that till this is settled to have our money. So it may be that I call a special call meeting. I'm sorry, but it's that important. And we'll just see. I don't think we have to have it in a motion. Okay. So will you just do that motion again? So we can vote.
Move that at our next meeting, we have proposals from both companies that are offering their services as financial advisors, and that the proposals would include their fees as well as their plans or their recommendations for the management of our debt.
Ms. Hunt?
I have a question.
Sure.
And I may need it to be read back, but didn't we just vote not to hire a certain company? Didn't we just agree not to do that? So why would we have another presentation if we just agreed not to hire somebody? It was my understanding that if we did not change advisors tonight, we would keep who we have. Is that wrong?
For now, yes. I mean, I guess, you know.
So we just voted not to change advisors. So I don't know why we would have the same company come again for a third time to present if we just voted not to hire a new company.
Well,
We didn't do that.
we didn't vote to not ever hire them. My reasoning for my motion is that that's exactly what I thought we were going to get tonight in executive session. That's what it says. It says contract and contractual matter, and we did not get that. So I feel like, you know, we need to have that so that we can make an educated decision.
Okay, I'm gonna solve this. I think that you both make a good point, but I do think that for one company, we got that very late in the day, so nobody saw that. None of us. Probably not even Ms. Rawls or Dr. Ross. And it certainly is only fair that the same thing we're asking of you, we get from Mr. Gallagher. And so, now this is just me thinking out loud. I don't know that they need to come and present that. If you can send that to us, and your questions are answered.
Do they have it? Do they have it? They're both here. He drove from Charlotte. If he has the information, he can tell us the information right here.
Well, it's just
but we
late,
just voted
Ms.
on
Hines.
it.
I know it. I get your point. Ms. Hines makes a good point. We did just vote that one down. But I'm trying to accommodate everyone, and I realize that Abraham Lincoln told me you can't do that.
Well, I don't think we just did vote for that. We voted for a combination of two parties that we didn't accept. That does not mean that we voted First Tryon down. So I don't agree with what you.
Well, if
what you
Ms. Hines
said.
wants to make the motion, you can do that. Right. You're right. I can see the fairness in, but I certainly don't think these two companies need to come again. They did present to us. Ms. Hines is right. They came to a meeting and presented. Now,
Jen, I can make a motion.
let me finish this. But I totally have empathy for Ms. Huddle saying tonight was a contractual matter that she could have had them in executive session with questions. Am I correct?
And a proposal and a contract. It says contractual matter. We got no contract to look at.
Yeah, I'm following. So I think that it's, if that's what the majority of the board wants, and we are a 6-member board. I'm sorry Mr. White cost us that money and left us, but to have a special election. But right now it's 6. So if there's a tie, it doesn't pass. Okay? So in case you guys didn't know that, I'm just reminding you. So let's vote on this motion. Okay? And it's to have contracts with, say it again, I know it's late, I'm sorry.
At our next meeting, to have proposals from both parties being considered, Compass and First Tryon, to have proposals for serving as our financial advisors with the proposals to include contract terms, rates, and recommended plan of action for our outstanding debt.
Okay. All those in favor? So that's 4. Now, any other motions?
Madam Chair, just, well, we have both companies here. You just heard the motion for fees, plans, rates, and recommendations for managing debt. Are there any clarifying questions you need of the administration on this board in terms of how to prepare what's being asked for, and in terms of the time that you would need to turn that around? That will determine to us when we can get back to this body about that information.
And to add to that, in case you could just send us that, and they could have their question, and you don't need to come back and spend all your time at a meeting.
Excellent point, Dr. Ross. When we talk about your plans going forward, we need to understand what your needs are, and that will go into how the bonds are structured. So it really will be helpful for Mr. Lovelace's Facilities Committee to give, or just give a range or an idea of what you're wanting, and then we can work to deliver a solution as to, you know, could something be done on this refunding where the way it is structured that it creates a pocket where you could issue additional 8% debt. You know, part of it's going to be, you don't want to overtax the people, but, you know, you're looking at 2 different things. Part of it is 8% money. Kind of think of it as your credit card. You want to pay it back quick, under 5 years. These bonds that we're refunding are referendum debt, you know, so you can look at how that debt is structured. So there's a lot of things that do go into that as far as delivering that solution, but part of it is information that both myself and Mr. Goldsmith would need in order to put that plan together. So if you wanted to give hypotheticals and say, you know, for these districts on the western side of the county, we need $50 million over the next 5 years. Put that into the program and then look at how that would look. Those are the things that would be very helpful for us to do our job.
Okay. Even if they're sort of ballpark, that'll help. That'll give you a guideline.
If you gave a ballpark or you gave an idea, this is what we want to do. We want to see taxes drop. What's the lowest we can do? How fast can we raise? You know, it all needs to stay in balance. And so when we push on one thing, it could cause something else. There's a few hard and fast things we have in this state, and one of them is the 8% debt limit of what that dollar amount is. You know, the millage is a target that you work towards with this body of where you want your tax level to be. You know, if you say we only want to be at 60 mils, how do we get there? But we've got needs of, you know, 100 million. It's going to be difficult to try to accomplish that. So part of it is really how, you know, what do you need? What are the priorities? And let the needs drive the financing. That's the biggest key, is what are those needs and how do they drive how that financing is structured.
Thank you, Mr. Gallagher. And how about from our other gentleman?
Well, I think as we shared with you in the meeting, We build these financial models, and they're very much like a calculator, and so the idea is that we can sit live in a meeting, and you can tell us, we want to add 2 schools, we want to renovate 1 school, and so it's a different approach. We don't need to hear your plan to start with, because we're building a tool so that you can live in a workshop run 10 scenarios and see the impact. And so that's the distinction.
Thank you. Thank you. So I think we're moving on this now, hopefully. No other motions on this. We are on 15, approval of detailed procurement audit. Do I have a motion on
I
that?
have a motion. I move that we issue an RFP for a detailed procurement audit for fiscal years 2018 to 19, 2019 to 20, and 2020 to 21, with the final auditor selection to be approved by the board. The audit should include a review of all vendors who received more than $50,000 during any of these fiscal years, to include procurement code and procurement manual compliance with contracting terms and payments. In addition to these years, the audit should include a review of the 2017 payment of sewer taps for Chapin Middle School, the P-card request and approval process, and recommendations on process changes needed to address any non-compliant findings. A final report of all audited payments, the review of P-card process, and recommendations for further action should be presented to the board.
Is there a second? Mr. Lovelace seconds. Any discussion on that? Ms. Hines?
I think that it's a good idea to do a detailed procurement audit. I guess if we are going to bring someone in to do this, do we know how much we should anticipate spending on how much that will cost and how much time it will take for that to be completed, and what that time frame looks like for the district and the response?
Yeah, that's why I put RFP and that the final selection would be approved by the board, because we could decide it's too expensive and decide to scale it down. Because I don't think you really know until you get proposals how much it's going to cost.
Okay.
Did it include a time frame of how long that RFP would last, or how long we would have it open and when that would be brought back to the board?
No, I mean, we could do that. Somebody could amend it for that. I don't think we've usually done that, but we could.
Those are
Just
determined
curious.
by the state, aren't they, by how long you have to keep the RFP open by advertisement. I'm sure I see
Marty?
Ms. Rawls is shaking her head, so she might want to address that.
Is there a time frame?
Most recently, we've kept the RFPs open for 21 days. So we probably would look at like a 3-week advertisement period and then evaluation after that. We would bring back all of the proposers to the board to make the decision, or we can do an evaluation on our end and make a recommendation to the board. It's however you want to do it.
Ms. Rawls, isn't there a period of time that they have to ask questions, and then that closes, and once that's closed, they can no longer, RFIs, and isn't that the way it works?
There would be a period of time that they could ask questions during that 21 days.
Right.
So we would have maybe after, and I'm picking a number, after 7 days, all questions would be submitted, and then we would be able to do, issue an addendum to be able to provide additional information.
Okay, that's a very good thing.
And I think we get those answers that Ms. Hines is talking about from Ms. Rawls when she gets the vendors back. Okay. So Ms. Gardner.
I'd like to make an amendment to the motion.
Okay.
I would like to add that we, on top of the 3-year procurement audit, that we also add in the RFP a 5-year option also, going back to 2016, just to see, so that way we get, pricing for 3 and 5 from all the companies that decide to.
You mean like comparing 3 years versus 5?
Yeah.
Okay. Since this is not spending that money and we're just finding out.
It's just finding out, yeah. So just want to include that on the RFP to see if it's cost effective or not.
I got you.
Yeah.
So all those in favor of her amendment? Oh, yeah. Are you going to second it? I saw your hand up. Is there a second? Because we can't
Can
vote.
I second 2 things?
We'll let you, Mr. Lovelace. Okay. So now, let's vote on that
We're
amendment.
voting on the amendment.
On the amendment to make it, instead of 3, she said, to get the comparison to go back 5. I can handle that. Okay, and that's 6-0. And so now back to all those in favor. And that is 6-0. Thank you, Ms. Huddle. Next, this should be simple and easy. Renewal of District 5 Foundation for Educational Excellence Memorandum of Understanding Agreement as in Exhibit D. I'd like to take this time, too, to say it's such a worthy cause. I hope you'll all come out to the gala where they make their money. It goes to scholarships for kids and for teachers. Join 5 for 5. And I'd really kind of like to recognize Miss Lovelace sitting out there, who has done so much for District 5. And I didn't know whether you'd like to do a little push for that or not. It's okay. We know she supports it. You can, Mr. Lovelace, because she's taught you what to say.
Ex officio to the foundation.
You want to read? Yeah.
Hand me that.
Which one you want?
This one. First of all, they left this on our table, and it's the District 5 Foundation payroll deduction form, which I'm sure everybody will be glad to make some payroll deductions for. Is this a matching situation? Does anybody know?
It's like 5 for 5. It's 5 for 5, and they take it out of your.
It's just
pay.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, if anybody would like to do that, that's an employee, the foundation needs the funds, and they need more volunteers, by the way, because the more they have, the more people can go out and help them solicit, and it's all of these things go for. All of the funds that come out of this go for student projects and things like that, so it's very worthwhile. And the second one, did you want me to do that?
Well, this is, I don't think, I need to ask Dr. Ross, I don't need to read this whole resolution. It's pretty much our partnership with them. And so, but we have to vote on it because it runs out. It runs so many times, but it's simply, actually what we do is we have staff that are actually at the district office in that, we have to okay that. But it is a nonprofit organization. So all those, this is the motion.
We have
Which
to make
one?
the motion. I'll make it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mean back on that, on the, okay,
We
of
have
the,
on the
about
on
the
the amendment, but not
RFP?
on the original.
Okay. Do you need her to say it again?
No, we have never a vote taken.
Just take the vote.
You've all voted on the amendment, but then you have to go back and vote on the original motion.
The amendment was for 5 years.
I got you.
Okay, and
And
then
then-
we're going to go back and vote on the original motion
her
for 3
motion.
years. So that would mean that we'd have a 3-year option and a 5-year option for the
Okay.
for the auditing firms.
I promise you, I thought we did. I thought,
Both of them were 6-0?
we did.
Okay.
It was,
Sorry.
I promise you.
Record of it. We have,
Oh,
We didn't
I'm
have
sorry.
record of
You
it.
couldn't hear. I know we voted. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so I'm back to this memorandum. So the motion would be,
Madam Chair,
yeah,
I'd like to make a motion
you can.
that the Board of Trustees approve the execution of the Memorandum of Understanding and Agreement relating to the support of School District 5 of Lexington and Richland Counties by the District 5 Foundation for Education Excellence, Inc., Incorporated.
That was perfect. Is that a second, Mr. Hogan? Good. And no discussion. We know how great it is. So, all those in favor? And that, did you vote, Ms. Hubble? Yeah, okay, 6-0. Now, 17, in case you need a little referral on this, approval of the removal of house at 6020 Westcott Road. That was bought a few years back because the property backs up to Irmo High, but the house has problems, and it's costing us, so we need to move the house. So, Mr. Biedenbach, you want to give them the update?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. We bought the house strategically for the Irmo High School property. Again, we bought the property, not the house and the pool, which backs up to the Irmo High, which gives us access to Irmo High for future fields, future whatever we need to do, but it was a good strategic purchase. Unfortunately, we've had folks break in the house. We found paraphernalia in the house. It's very alarming to us. We have a swimming pool that's empty, and that causes concerns because we've had folks there using the property, and we've actually put boards on the house to keep people out from getting hurt. The barn that's there pieces have been gone, so it's not stable, so we're worried about folks getting hurt on our property. We have tried, we've listed the house for 15 days and the school business opportunity on 2 separate occasions, and we've also listed it in the state newspaper trying to find a different buyer from those 2 postings with no success. We will have to do some abatement to the inside of the house before we can demolish it, but we would like to recommend to the district to seek bids for demolition and removal of the house and the barn and fill in the pool and conduct the abatement of the property.
Do you have any idea at the cost of that yet?
I do not. I can give you an estimate, but we have not sought bids. We wanted to get the approval of the board.
Right, you need to get approval, and then you'll bring it back to us.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's great. Do I have a motion on that?
I'll do it.
Yes.
I'll make the motion that we approve the removal of the house at 6020 Westcott Road, which is Exhibit E to our tonight's meeting.
Is there a second? Mr. Hogan seconds. Any discussion? Yeah, Mr. Gardner.
When we say removal of house and barn, are we talking about demolition and then removal of debris, or is someone taking this house as is?
No, that's why we tried to sell it, get someone to move it so we wouldn't have to do demolition. So we're recommending demolition before
we tried
and then
that.
clear it.
Okay, all those in favor? And that is 6-0. Next is 18, suspend board policy ECB building and grounds maintenance. And Dr. Ross, I think you explained to us why you need that. You want to just refresh everybody real quick? Or you want Mr. Beatonball? He wants you to do this.
Thank you, Dr. Ross. I must admit I was wrong earlier, and now I'm asking. At the time when we discussed this summer, things were great, and they have not been so good lately, and we've had a lot of custodial staff out for various reasons, not necessarily shortages, just out due to COVID, long-term illnesses, and FMLA. And we need now to come back to you so we can move folks around to help cover our schools, to clean and sanitize our schools. Without having the supervisory rights, it's hard for us to do that. So we're asking the board to suspend this to allow the operations staff, while we're still in our situation with COVID and other options, to the opportunity to supervise the custodial staff so we can move those to help schools in time of need.
Right. I think that's a very good reason. Do I have a motion? Ms. Gardner.
I move that we suspend policy ECB, building and grounds maintenance, designating the portion of the policy designating the building principal as supervisor of custodial staff members in order to allow temporary custodial transfers between schools and district buildings.
All right. Is there a second? Ms. Huddle seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is 6-0. And number 19, approval for White and Story LLC to conduct the superintendent search process. Do I have a motion? Mr. Lovelace.
I move that we approve the firm of White and Story LLC to conduct the superintendent search process.
Is there a second? Ms. Huddle seconds. Any discussion? Yes, Hines?
I have a question. So what does this just mean that we are going to use White and Story to conduct it, and then like they will bring back what that process looks like and what that timeline looks like? That doesn't mean that we're starting a search tomorrow, or does it mean that she's going to bring back the procedures to us?
We had her explain the process, and we already did that.
Right.
And so this
we
is
had
more,
her explain the process. I'm just making sure, because when she explained the process, she recommended that we do this in the spring. Is that still the case?
No.
That's okay.
She did not give a time frame.
She did give a time frame. She said that we would start looking in the spring and then come back and make a decision by the new
Well, that's
fiscal year.
different than what she said to me. I'm
I
sorry.
mean, we were all in the same meeting.
I know, but-
Yeah, I know, I'm trying to, that's why I want to make sure that I know what the motion is.
Well, what we had to find out was what the process was. And then after we found the process, I've had conversation with her, and she said if you want, and there have been a lot of reasons for just to hurry and have a permanent superintendent. And I heard from the board back there that you wanted to have a search and a process. So that's what she told me to put this on here now.
Absolutely, but I just didn't know what that timeline is, because that timeline is different than what we talked about. So I'm just asking.
Thank you. Ms. Gardner?
I just want to address that. I think you're right. We thought we had more time, but I think under circumstances, I think that's what this motion is about, is that we wanted to move forward now with the search, like that, which is the choice that we get to make tonight. So if the motion doesn't pass, then we wait, or if it does, we move forward tonight. So that was my understanding of why this is on tonight, is that there's, just with everything going on, is that it would be better if we had a permanent superintendent sooner than later.
Okay, what circumstances? I just didn't know, because I didn't know what we were.
It's everything that we deal with. We're dealing with, I mean,
COVID.
19 items all the time, and we have an interim superintendent, and we're expecting him to make decisions for a future superintendent that it's time to move forward. But if we don't agree to do it, we don't have to, so.
That's why it's on here. Thank you. All right, any other questions about it? All those in favor, raise your hand. And that is 6-0.